Welcome, guys, back to the Rake. We have an awesome guest for you today. We have KL Cleeton, who is the creator of Range Trainer Pro, a very helpful poker app. He is the manager of Learn Pro Poker, and he's a professional poker player. And you can tell by the way I ask, "Are you a professional poker player?" And he says, no, I have two businesses. I only play sometimes." Those are the people who are going to beat you at the table. So welcome, KL. How's it going?
Thank you very much for that. It's pretty good, and I'm pumped to be here.
Sweet. So there's a lot to talk about. You have, when I first learned about you, I think it was when you won your seat to the main event through Daniel Negreanu's promotion. And at that point, it seemed like you were I'm just happy to be here. I love poker, kind of want to experience the WSOP. And I feel like in the last few years, you have become a really serious poker player who's playing a lot of online and has improved a lot. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, how you got into poker and how you got good so fast?
Yeah. First of all, thank you for thinking I'm good. That's a really big plus I've been working on. My making people think I'm decent at the game. No, I think that. So I was really because of my personal situation. Poker is kind of something I've always been drawn to. It's kind of a form of competition that doesn't require you to be physically gifted in any way. I mean, just look at some of the regs that play in the circuit grinders. I mean, let's be honest. Yeah, okay, I'm already shitting on people. 30 seconds in. Well, you have high hands. No, it's one of those things where all that is necessary for you to be successful is obviously, the ability to think logically, break down situations, obviously have a little bit of luck. Otherwise, it wouldn't, be a game that all of us enjoy. But because of where I come from and my perspective, that was always really, really exciting to me. By just my nature, am a very competitive person. If I could, I would absolutely be in competitive sports. I would be, the the dude that plays Sunday afternoon, pickup ball or soccer, football, whatever I could play, that would be me if I could. Um, and poker is kind of that outlet. And you're right, I was taking it very much kind of from a recreational standpoint. It was something that I enjoyed, but it wasn't something that I ever thought was like a thing. It was like, hey, this is fun to do a few times a week, but it's not a thing. I went to school, I had a degree in advertising, so I was very much on that prototypical, kind of straight, narrow path of success. The issue is, I live in a pretty rural part of the country, so I always tell people I live in Illinois, and immediately it's like, oh, really? We're part of Chicago. No, I'm not from Chicago. I'm from 200 miles straight south of Chicago, which is basically halfway between nowhere and what the fuck? That's basically where I live. There is not a casino within 100 miles of me. So if I wanted to play live, like even if the world wasn't ending, like it is right now, as we're recording this podcast, it's not something that you can just easily do. Um, but because of all of those things, that straight and narrow like path to success, get your college degree, get a 9 to 5, blah blah blah. Those opportunities were kind of few and far between in the area that I live in. There's not exactly a bunch of advertising work in Effingham, Illinois. Uh, I'm not kidding. That's the name of my town, Effingham.
Seriously?
Yeah, no, it's not
Wait,
a
maybe
joke.
there's no like opportunities for advertising cows and stuff. You're like, hey, down
Well,
the street, there's like a bunch of trees.
there's a lot of those, but see, the thing is, cardboard and Sharpies are super cheap, and nobody wants to pay me to do that. But I would do it if they pay me. It's one of those things where, as a product of all of those things, you tend to start looking for other stuff that you enjoy and might be opportunities. And I had started to take poker a bit more seriously, and that was when the contest with Dan Run happened. A bunch of my poker friends were like, "Why haven't you submitted a video?" And I was like, I mean, I probably won't win, and blah blah blah. And they were like, "No, you will probably win. Have you seen you?" And I was like, "Okay." So on the last day, I submitted my video, and then I'd imagine most of the viewers know, the rest. I ended up winning, and we ended up getting the chance to go. And because of that, I had to meet a whole bunch of really amazing people, get tuned into the community at large, even though I'm, you know, a full day drive, 24 hours away from Las Vegas. I still get to interact with fine folks like you two.
I wouldn't go that far. That's it's very nice of you. How I wanted to talk a little bit about, like, everybody's complaining about how much their lives have changed. They can't leave the house. They can't do the stuff they normally do. They're living a lot of their lives online. Do you just like shake your head? You're like, shut up, everyone. Like, a lot of your interactions and stuff, and a lot of the stuff you do, like online poker, you are doing a lot of it online already. Was this not as huge of a change for you to have to kind of just chill at home and have Zoom meetings and whatever?
Yeah, so actually, when it all started, and it was very clear that this was not going to be like a 1 month or 2 month thing, I kind of made the joke, I was built for this. I mean, because as you point out, I do a lot of my stuff remotely. I do a lot of my stuff in front of my computer. You can't see it, but I spend 95% of my day when I'm awake in front of my computer. So my computer is massive. I mean, I've got a set setup, and the reason I have that is because I have to. If I can't work from home, I can't do anything. So I wouldn't say that I get annoyed by people, because I get it. I mean, if you're used to going out and being, you know, uh, on the move and active and traveling a lot, if you're a circuit grinder or someone who travels around the world to play poker, I get it. Don't get me wrong, I totally get it. And you have every right to be frustrated and upset and annoyed, whatever, adjective you want to say. But there are still opportunities. There are still ways for people to stay engaged, continue to, be connected to the outside world, be connected to their friends, and obviously their family. And there are, if you just want to get right down to the nuts and bolts of it, there's still plenty of ways to make money too. I mean, online poker is not dead at all. I mean, in fact, it's had a massive resurgence
Mhm.
in the last several months, because nobody can go to the casino, nobody can do anything. So, I get that it's frustrating and annoying, but there's also opportunity. And I think if you're able to focus on those things and try to take full advantage of it, that it might not be as awful as it has to be.
How much do you play these days, and what kind of stuff do you play?
So right now, I'll be perfectly honest with you, the last, I don't know, month or so, my grind has been limited to only Sundays, just because by the time I'm doing stuff during the week with Share Pro and Learn Pro Poker, and whatnot, I need to have a day off. I like to play video games occasionally, or just do nothing. But Sundays are my major days lately. However, when I am in Seoul, like, hey, I'm playing poker, I usually play 4 or 5 days a week. I'll register for about 6 hours, and then obviously, hopefully, I play for than that. But my actual registration period is about 6 hours, and right now I'm playing everything from the $11 shit shows to limit my variance, all the way up to the 2650s. Like they had the Venom, you had Mathis on a few weeks ago, which actually a friend of mine had a not insignificant piece of him in that,
Oh.
which was fun. And so he was messaging me on that final day, like, we need this dude to win. We're gonna get paid. And I'm like, what's this we shit? But no, it's fun to play those events. Obviously, those are stuff that I sell considerably to. But they're fun to play. But mostly my day in, day out is, I don't know, probably a 55 ADI in general.
Gotcha. I wanted to ask you something. Well, me and Marley talked about this and about how, like, we don't want to do to you what everyone does to women in poker, which is like, what's it like being a woman in poker, and not focus on just like the thing where like, oh, it's different, you're different, let's point that out. But so many of the questions I want to know somewhat revolve around, the difficulties that you face personally that, I don't have to think about ever. And I hope it's not annoying to probably have to answer questions for like the 100th time.
Not at all.
Your dad accompanies you when you play live. Does he like poker at all, or did you kind of like make him enter this world? And has he started playing more after watching you and having to help you during WSOP?
No, he definitely enjoys poker. It was not a kicking and screaming type of venture at all. He's a lot like most people. When he was younger, playing Chicago and all sorts of stud games, low hole, high stayed type of split pot games, stuff like that. Just for like nickels, dimes, quarters, paychecks occasionally, but they were working at Wendy's, so it wasn't that big of a paycheck. But it was very much that was not no limit hold'em at that point in time. So this is a little bit of a different game, but at the end of the day, poker is poker, and it's still that many. I wouldn't say the same elements, but parallel elements, I guess is a good way of putting it. But no, I mean he's. I would tell people he and I play very different styles of poker. I'm very much. I'm very much the way that I've been coached and the way that I've developed independently. If I feel I have an edge at a table, I'm very active. I'm VPIPing very, very high amounts. Not forgetting very much, but I'm VPIPing very significant. And that's just not really in his play style. And so, I'll be in a pot with, like 9-6 suited, and he'll be like, I don't know what to do with my hands, like full on Ricky Bobby. But it's funny because he obviously sees my hand. He has to see it in order to make sure that I can see it. We're right beside each other. And so everybody's always like, does he not look? Does he look? Well, he has to. It's just the way it is. And so we'll talk afterwards on break, and I'll be like, this, or, what was that? Or, the one that always gets me is when he is positive, I misread my hand, but I'm positive he misread the hand. So a really good example is I had like King Queen, and he is still to this day dead serious, 100% positive. I folded a boat. I just did. I folded a boat. There's no way I didn't. And I'm like, dude, I did not have a boat. That's not what my hand was. My hand was King Jack. I had bad top pair. That's all I had. And, in one of those thoughts where it's like, villain is never bluffing because they're like a 65-year-old dude who hasn't like raised one time, and then boom, he just like check raises the river, and you're like, okay, dude, nice nuts. And he's like, no, you had a boat. I'm like, I promise you, I did not, because I said sold, and he sold it, but it's like that like pump fake sold, where like it started to go and then it didn't go, and he looked at me and he mucked it, and then he turned to me and put his hand over his mouth. He goes, you just sold it a boat. And I'm like, I didn't. I promise I didn't. I 100% didn't. But those situations are so fun because obviously, like, I say this a lot, and I always get like, oh, you're just being hokey, blah, blah, blah. But me and my dad really are best friends, which is really, I'm grateful because not everybody has that, and I recognize that, and I don't take it for granted. But because of that, we give each other shit a lot, as you will. So it's always fun whenever I can point out, something crazy like that.
Yeah, two things about that. One, that's very ethical of your dad to think that you're making a mistake, but realizing it's one player to a hand, so he's going to make the mistake that you want to make in his mind. Two, your sense of humor. I love your sense of humor. I think you're like one of the funniest people in poker. I have adopted some of your terms. I call it a banana card when the river is a brick. And I wanted to know though, because some of your humor is a bit off color, like some of your banter with Veronica and stuff. It gets sexual. It gets kind of like really funny. Like, is it weird if you're at the table and you want to make some joke that you're going for it, but your dad is there? Like, is that a thing where it's like, it's cool because
no,
you're best friends, or do you have to censor yourself?
100% no. My dad is like even more out of line than I am. I'm at like an 8.5, and he's like a 15. So it's totally fine. And I guess from just like a personal standpoint, like I really do think that comedy and trying to make situations less serious is just plus easy in basically almost everything. I would say like 95% of things. If we just took it like a tiny bit less serious, maybe everybody would be not so shitty. Mood, people in general. And so I tried to live that. Obviously, I would never call myself a comedian because comedians have a really tough job, and I couldn't do it. States, I have great respect for what people like him are able to do. Stand up in front of a crowd, and tell jokes, and that's super fun. However, having said that, I kind of feel a certain level of like I identify with that persona, that profession, if you will, because you're never sure what's going to land and what isn't going to land. But at the same time, if you like don't say something that you think is somewhat funny, because you're afraid it won't land, like you're just never going to say anything at all. And you're never ever going to interact with people. And at the end of the day, that is my goal. My goal is to interact with people. My goal is to have conversations and maybe learn something or meet someone new. And you never know when the next conversation that you have, whether it's in real life or over the internet, is going to lead to a really awesome and beautiful friendship. And you wouldn't have met that person if you hadn't put yourself out there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to that same point, I was just curious. Obviously, things have changed in the last few years, and we see a culture that's becoming increasingly, sensitive. Maybe sensitive is the right word, but censored maybe, and increasing attention being paid to different groups, whether it be women or people of color, whatever. Do you feel like how do you think about that? And do you have people? Because I feel like a lot of times it's the people who get more offended, the people who aren't even in the marginalized group. Have you ever had people at the table like stand up for you or like be more offended than you are almost at someone's actions? Or how do you feel about that?
So it's really hard for me to have too much of a perspective on that. And for one reason alone, I just don't have as much live experience as I would like. I'm sure that if I had hundreds of thousands of live hands under my belt, there would be some asshole somewhere that said something or whatever. I would say the only kind of like awkward, I wouldn't even say it was mean or ill will or anything like that. It was just an awkward interaction. Was at a WSOP circuit event. I was playing my first bullet of the main for that stop in St. Louis, and a circuit reg who I know relatively well that probably didn't know me except maybe by Twitter. We sit down, Dad and I, and we get into a hand. I think it was the Reg's big blind, and I raised. And before they made their action, when it folded to them, they looked at Dad and went, "Do you know how to play poker?" And Dad was like, "I'm not playing. He is." He's like, "Yeah, I understand that, but do you know what you're doing? Do you know how to play poker?" And like I don't think there was any ill will or like malice intended. But for me, at least, I was thinking about later, and the way I couldn't decide if I needed to interpret that like he was just curious, and chose a really weird time to ask whenever I had raised into his big blind, or was he under the assumption that like I somehow barely knew enough and was, like Jamie said earlier, it was like two players to a hand or something,
Yeah.
or yeah, exactly.
Or something, yeah.
Exactly. What was the intention, I guess? And I think the reason it's so awkward is because of the exact moment that the question came out. Like if on break, we're like, "Hey man, how's it going?" So do you guys, how do you guys do this? And I feel like that would be very much a, "Hey, I'm curious. What's going on here? I just want to know more." But because it's like,
yeah. I think you almost appreciate something like that more than people just staring awkwardly or like whispering to their friends or texting. You know what I mean? The texting. It's actually probably better for them to just be like, "Hey, like, how does this work?" Like genuinely, I think it's kind of better to do with it.
Yeah, in that 100%. Situation. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just agreeing. 100%.
Okay. In that situation, it's like there are two things that could be annoying about that. One, it's like if they're kind of being accusatory that, oh, you have an advantage because two people are looking at the hand. Or the second thing, which sucks as well, is like, oh, does your dad know how to play? Because I can get reads off him too. Like, oh, he looked at your hand too. Let me look over there too. It's like if you're trying to scum somebody who just like needs a little help, like, oh my God. I think it's funny. That's a really funny question. I agree with you. That's like the timing is what would make me roll my eyes at it. Like if he asked after the hand, it's like perfectly fine. But during the hand, you're like, really?
Yeah, and that was kind of what Dad and I Blake were talking about that at that particular tournament. He was like, we'd always had that understanding that I wouldn't say it was an advantage to the table, but there's certainly an extra layer to us because he's looking at my cards, etc. And so like he actually started doing. He was wearing a hat.
Okay.
He was wearing a hat that we had made actually the day before at a Lids nearby, and it says on it, "High Hands Card Holder." Because I mean,
What? Hi.
why wouldn't it? High Hands Card Holder, since he's my it's super cool. And so what he would do is he would pull the hat down low over his face and literally just bury his face in his arms. And then whenever I would say something, he would do it and then go right back to it. So he looked like a German pro not playing. That's basically what it was. He was like a German or an Austrian high stakes reg minus the was it Vogelsang that had
he had the hoodie that was like this.
Exactly. So he was like the reverse Vogelsang because he was going from the top down instead of the bottom up. But yeah, it was just one of those things where it was like, all right, if you guys are gonna try and do that, then we're just gonna do what we can to limit that edge. And I mean, at the end of the day, live poker is very much about that interaction. And so, I'm expecting folks to maybe have like weird questions or, whatnot. I didn't expect it from this particular reg exactly, just because of some of the things I knew about them. But it's still funny, and we laugh about it now.
Yeah, I think. Go ahead, Marley. Sorry.
No, I was gonna pivot to a kind of different
go for it.
area. I'm just curious, like, how long have you had this condition, and how did it happen, and all that?
Yeah, so I have something called Spinal Muscular Atrophy. It's SMA for short. It's a form of muscular dystrophy. So if you remember that before he was, had all the bad press, there was the Jerry Lewis telethon that would take place every year on Labor Day. The Muscular Dystrophy Association, which is what that was raising money for, my disease is under that umbrella. And it's a genetic thing, so you're born with it. And basically, the medical side of it is the signals from my brain don't get transmitted to my muscles. And so because of that, I have really severe atrophy in basically all of my muscles. Now, the effective way to understand it is it's like I'm paralyzed from the neck down, but I feel everything. So if I have an itch or you stab me, don't do that because I'll feel it.
Don't do that.
It's just a general, good piece of advice for everyday life. Don't stab people. But no, so like a really good thing to think about is like if I have an itch, I have to have somebody scratch it. If I need a drink, I need to have somebody give me a drink. Exactly. And so I just, hey, Dad, give me a drink. Hey, Mom, give me a drink.
So your parents are the ones who help you day to day.
Yeah, so my parents are my primary caregivers, and they do, basically whatever I need. If I'm doing something, this thing right here in front of my face, this is actually my mouse. from my computer. So I use it with my
Cool.
lips, my chin, my lip area. But like if I'm playing online and I back up because I need moves or whatever, then I'm like, hey, fold that hand or raise that hand or whatever it is.
So I have a very
and
specific
then,
question for you. This is a
yeah,
really important question.
okay.
When you're pissed off, when you get bad beat, do you just bite that thing really fucking hard?
I haven't yet, which you would think I would, judging by my teeth.
Stop it.
Lot of good braces did there, right? But no, actually, so funny story. I actually used to actually get tilted. No, I wouldn't say a lot, but more than I wanted to, and that's something that I've tried to really focus on is just okay, whatever. Did I play it well? Yes. I get mad now if I feel like I made a really big mistake more than if I lose, like a 2-outer on the river for chip lead with 15 to go. Like that, which I know everybody says that, and then you roll your eyes and you're like, sure, like, okay. But I mean, you can't be in the room. I mean, don't get me wrong. I still get like annoyed, like shit, I mean, things like that. But as far as like overall super like crazy monkey tilt, if you will, I do make the occasional be right back driving into oncoming traffic joke, to which most of my friends reply, we won't notice much of a difference when you get back.
Oh, man. See, you have to have friends like that. I feel like when you have a sense of humor like you do, if you had the overly polite friends, it would suck so bad.
It does. It really does. But yeah, so they always put me right back in that place. And then like my primary kind of like mentor on poker is in the middle of a 6-figure downswing. And so whenever I bitch about poker, and they're like, yeah, go on, tell me more about how you lost, for $800. Please, go on. So I'm like, all right, fine, I get the point. But I shouldn't complain. I'm in a good spot. I get to play poker whenever I want. I get to be involved in a community that, for the most part, obviously we have our fair share of shitty members, if you will. But I don't think that's unusual for any community. I mean, you look at any subset of culture, you're going to have folks who maybe don't represent the best ideals. But by and large, I feel like all of us in the tech community are generally decent, okay human beings. And again, we're looking for an edge to take your money in any possible way we can. But that doesn't mean that, we won't buy dinner occasionally. But it's one of those things where I try to focus on all the cool stuff I get to do day in, day out. That whenever you inevitably do go through that like IRL downswing, that real world downswing, you kind of have a little bit of a frame of reference.
We interrupt this podcast with an important message from our sponsors at Run It Once. Here at Run It Once Poker, we're delighted to announce that we are officially out of beta. To celebrate, we're hosting 101% Week. Every day this week, we're bringing you a new promotion through which we'll give back 101% of the total rake we collect. Plus, we're rolling out the welcome mat to all first-time depositors with an insane 101% welcome offer. Players that make their first deposit during 101% Week will receive a 101% cash bonus on all Legends rewards for their first 4 weeks. And that's not all. These first-timers will also receive up to $100 worth of Run It Once training content. This exclusive offer is on top of our already juicy 100% welcome bonus, in which we match 100% of your deposits up to €600 for your first 30 days. If you're not already playing on Run It Once Poker, now is the time. For full details on 101% Week, head on over to once.run/101%. That's once.run/101PERCENT. And now, back to the pod.
I did want to mention this just in case anybody listening is inspired to try to help when you do want to go play live poker again. Apparently the van that you need is going to have to be like a Batmobile of a van to get you to live poker. And Veronica Brill actually started a GoFundMe that it picked up a little steam, but you need a lot more help. So if anyone wants, I'm pretty sure we're going to be able to put the GoFundMe link somewhere. If we can't put it in the YouTube link, I'll put it on a tweet or something like that. But I think it's important for you to like get to play live poker. You're a really funny dude. I would love to play at a table with you and just see how many people we can horrify with our off-color jokes. But yeah, like it sucks that you don't get to play live poker that much, and it sucks that it is such a hassle and so expensive for you to get to these places. So hopefully we could help a little bit.
And if you don't mind, I'd just like to say something really quickly about that. First of all, Veronica is an absolute. She is everything that the poker community should strive to be. She is so strong in her convictions and has never let, kind of what I always knew it was like an unspoken thing, but like seeing it in action, this kind of mob mentality of these operators, and how they're just going after anyone involved with that entire scandal. But obviously, specifically her, is heartbreaking but inspiring at the same time, at least for me, because she's been like, they're trying to character assassinate me, but I'm still going to do what I know is the right thing by outing a cheater. Anybody who still isn't convinced that Mike Tassel cheated is either extremely naive, in which case I have a bridge that I can sell you very cheap, or you're just involved in the scam. I apologize for that bit of an aside, but my point was she did this completely unexpectedly with me. We were talking on her show, and she didn't realize what an accessible vehicle, like what the costs associated with that were. She did because of obviously her own personal past to a certain extent, but like seeing what it is now, you would look at a minivan and go, oh, hey, I can get a decent minivan for $35,000. Okay, add 50 to that in order to make it, something you can drive a wheelchair into. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. And in addition to that, there isn't really any program available at all to make that something that is more attainable for people. I'm sure most people would assume this, but I'll just confirm it for you. Guess what? Like basically every disabled person isn't independently wealthy. There are 1 in 100 maybe that are most disabled folks are actually very poor, really, 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 really living paycheck to paycheck, and that paycheck isn't even enough sometimes. I'm super lucky in that I've got an amazing support system, but not everybody does. And so I always like to bring that up, not because of my own, selfish reasons that, hey, I'd like to play poker live. I mean, don't get me wrong, I want that. But also, I think if more people are aware that, like, simple shit, like going from town to town, is basically financially prohibitive.
Mhm.
I think maybe at some point we can do something about that. So if I ever win the main event, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start some sort of foundation or something to help folks afford vans, because you
Yeah.
shouldn't have to be in debt for 25 years in order to go see your grandmother who lives an hour away.
Yeah, I have kind of what might be a stupid question. But like if I want to go on a trip or something, I can just go rent an RV and do it. Like, would it help? Like, if there was some company if someone started a foundation that had a bunch of vehicles outfitted for people in wheelchairs that they offered for like cheap rentals, so that you don't have to each buy like a 100K vehicle, or is it something where it's like it has to be outfitted specifically to your needs, so it wouldn't help to have like a service like that?
So it very much depends on the individual. So, for example, me, I can't physically drive, obviously. So, what our needs are, it's literally a ramp into the van. Now, it's a little more complicated than that, because when they put the ramp in, they actually lower the floor of the van. Because if you just put the ramp in, it's the doorway isn't tall enough, and you end up running your head into the top of the van. Side story: at my brother's wedding, I may or may not have gotten very drunk and done that. Just why do you think I'm wearing a hat? No, I'm kidding. But that really happened though. But so there is quite a bit to it. Now, if you are someone, let's say you can move your arms, but you can't obviously move your legs. There are all sorts of ways that you can drive with
Mhm.
hand pedals and things like that. I I can imagine tons of people that maybe want to go on a road trip, but they don't have a need day in, day out for a vehicle. That would be a really amazing option. Obviously, for us, we live 100 miles from everything, so we personally would need that, because if I have to go to one of my specialists, for example, that's in St. Louis, that's
Mhm.
100 miles away. So that's a day trip. But if you live in a metropolitan area where you have access to public transit and things like that, and oh, by the way, the public transit is decent and actually accessible, then absolutely that would be an amazing thing. And I would love to see something like that. Maybe if Bill Perkins is committed to that, that would be something really, really cool. I'm hoping maybe at some point he and I get into a Twitter conversation. And I live about a mile and a half from my tiny airport that will land a private jet. So, I mean, I don't want to, out and out say it, but, if he sent a jet with a lift, I wouldn't turn it down. Just saying.
Well, I feel like you're being very subtle here. So if it's not enough, if he doesn't get the hint, we could tag him in this, and I'll really spell it out for him that perhaps you want to visit from Perkins and a ride to the next WSOP.
I mean,
I
that'd be
feel
cool. I mean, I don't need the jet to keep it. I just want to borrow it for a day or two. Just borrow it. I mean, I don't know. I've never been in a private jet. I'm sure you guys have. I imagine
No.
I'm
that's
not
fabulous.
fancy.
No.
Come on, I play like 2-5. I don't have private jet fucking sending me to my.
I would love to
I
see
would stop
Kale
by.
in a Dan Bilzerian like photo shoot, by the way. Like
Yeah.
I would love it if they just picked you up and then like you just decided to move in and like travel with them, and like every photo was just like 25 naked girls and you're just chilling like.
It's just like ass and titties and a
Yeah.
robot wheelchair kid. That's
Yeah.
it. Just that's all it is. It's just
Honestly, I don't know. I could see that happening. I
mean, I'm not gonna turn it down. Don't get me wrong. I'm not turning it down.
It's gonna get awkward though when your dad's like, listen, I need to help him out. I gotta go on this trip. I don't want to go in a mobile hot tub with my son and 25 naked Playboy models, but I have to go. And your mom's just gonna have to like be like, yeah, it's true. He needs to.
It's just it's a necessity. It really is. I mean, we all have our cross to bear, and you know that's his. Okay, that's amazing.
Oh man.
So
Marley, that's an amazing idea.
I should say I want to hear about your businesses and this app that you started, and you are managing Learn Pro Poker. What is your role there?
So basically, everything that isn't related to actual content creation, and even that, I actually am the one that does all of the editing on it as well. So I am involved in the production process. I'm just not the dude that pops on the PO and looks at the check raise frequencies of ace-8 off on a king high board with a backdoor straight draw. I mean, shit like that. I understand it. I just couldn't write it if I had to. But yeah, so anytime anybody sends in emails or has questions, as long as it's not related to how to play poker well, I probably am the one answering that. And then where I do get to talk about how to play poker well is Wayne's Trainer Pro, which shameless plug, Wayne'sTrainerPro.com, because I am at my heart of hearts a 100% shill for basically everything I'm involved with, which, reasonable. But the app was born actually as part of my main event experience. In the lead up to that, I wanted to get better. I wanted to do some really intense studying for the week or so leading up to before we left. And I had a whole bunch of people reach out and offer me access to training content. Raise Your Edge was kind of the tournament course at the time. So they reached out and was able to hook me up with access to that tournament poker edge, which at that point was super popular because it was like a cheaper but tournament centric Run It Once. Run It Once was obviously the Matt Daddy of all training sites. And then this was, kind of like the little brother if you couldn't afford, your right net for the premier training. So I had access. I had the ability to learn. What I didn't have was a good way to memorize ranges. Everybody was giving me all these hand charts, RFI from the cutoff on 50 big lines, et cetera, but there wasn't a way to actually practice and memorize them. And I was like, how has nobody made this? This is ridiculous. And from that, I was thinking, well, why couldn't we just build a tool that you input your ranges and then it spits them back, out at you, and basically gives you a table, gives you a position, a stat depth, and says, "Here's a hand. What do you do with it?" And then you memorize that way because most people don't memorize by looking at a chart And then when they're playing in real time, close their eyes, visualize that chart, find out if the hand they have is in that range. It's like, that's stupid. Doesn't make any sense. Nobody plays like that. Why should we learn like that?
Yeah,
So
so this kind of
I
quizzes
made
you, like
something.
it's
Yeah.
interactive and it gives you a quiz and it tells you if you're on the right track or not. How does
I
it work?
made exactly that tool. My developer business partner and I, he's the one that codes it. I'm the one that says, that looks good. Keep going. And basically, that's what it is. You either input your own ranges or you can purchase them from us. And it allows you to quiz yourself in real world scenarios. So it's effectively like you're playing poker without spending entry fees. But at the end of the day, in general, the only way to get good is by playing hands. And generally, playing hands is expensive. Learning how to play poker is expensive. So if you can do this, yeah, it's not perfectly analogous to playing, actual at a table, but it's a hell of a lot better than Zynga. And it actually is something that you can look at and get a feedback score on where you're making mistakes, what you need to work on, and how you can improve.
Are you suggesting I should stop practicing on Zynga?
I mean, I think it's a great thing if you're looking for tilt control. I mean, that's really good for that. If you want to learn how to not be pissed off at the world, play Zynga, and then just, you'll be fine.
That's cool. I know I have more stuff I want to ask you. We usually just do an hour, but I want to ask you because you mentioned off stream about your dogs, and I'm obsessed with dogs. So, do you want to talk about your dogs? Like, what kind of relationship do you have with them? Are they ever jerks like my dogs? Like, I could just see it being so annoying if they're just like wanting to play with you and they're yelling at you. Because my dog will sit at my feet and just bark forever.
So,
like, how does it work?
First of all, we have a Maltese who is very, very, very stubborn. She's older and, like humans, has gotten very crotchety in her old age. I mean, she is just straight up like grandma, get off my lawn type of thing. But she is she's been around a long time, so she kind of like is also at the same time kind of like chill with everything. But what's fun is when she was really little, I had trained her that if she jumps into the recliner in the other room, the from the armrest onto my lap, it's basically you just step off the armrest into my lap. So she'll jump up into my lap via the recliner, and then she'll hang out in my lap, and I use my left armrest to lean on, but my right armrest I don't use at all. And so I use the left one, and the right one is hers to lay her head on. And so she'll just lay there and fall asleep and do old dog stuff. Now, Teddy, he is a Maltese Pomeranian mix, and he's not very old. He's only like 3, I believe. And he's hyper as shit. I mean, he is just like out of this world hyper. Yeah, he's very much. I mean, he's all of our dogs, obviously. But you know how, like, if you're in a family and then the dog, like, gravitates to that one person in the family, like, yeah, Ted is very much my dad's dog. He's always jumping up into his lap when his computer is on my back left he doesn't hear in case I need anything, generally. And so he's always jumping up into his lap in the office chair and like trying to like nose his way up into his business and, being generally annoying but adorable, that type of thing. I mentioned before we got going, they are very much the persona of a guard dog. If somebody walks up the ramp, we have a metal ramp on our front door, so it makes a lot of noise when somebody steps on it. And so if someone walks up the ramp, they're like, they're this really deep, throaty, vicious sounding bark. And then you open the door and you see who they are, and they like take off around the corner, like they're a bunch of scared little puppies. But yeah, they certainly keep all of us, at the very least, attentive. We don't pay attention to them. They get very upset.
That's awesome. I love when like the tiny dogs are the ones that think they're so tough. It's just amazing. Like I have a new puppy and Crouton could eat her and she's somehow unaware of that. And he'll be sleeping and she just comes up and bites his toes. I'm like, you're going to get eaten at some point. Like, you know how annoying that would be? You're dead asleep. And then it's like these tiny little puppy needle teeth just bite at your paw pads. Like, it's amazing that she's still alive. I give Crouton a lot of credit for just not ending her instantly. But yeah, the little dogs are always the ones that have to be tough guys. It's amazing.
They do. And I tell you, Crouton's the real hero of this story. I mean, let's be honest. Crouton's the hero of basically every story involving Crouton. But yeah, it's some excellent self-control to
For sure.
not just doing that happen. We certainly, when we do get the chance, when we went to Vegas, we missed having them, obviously, because we're here all the time, and they obviously had a little bit of that separation anxiety as well, because we're here all the time, and whatnot. So we definitely miss them, but it's always fun when we get come back. When we came back from Vegas, and they're caught between giving you the cold shoulder because they're pissed at you, but also being really, really excited that you're back, and so they can't decide whether they're going to ignore you or like sit there and they're like, yes, hi, I'm here. So yeah.
Cats are like that fun too. I feel like people don't realize that cats do that same dance when you come back from a long trip. Like they definitely give you the cold shoulder, but they're so like, my cat will like drool all over me and just be extra lovey.
Your videos are so cute, Marley. I miss them. It's the one thing I miss with you being in the UK is like your Chauncey videos. She would just like go play poker and then come home and have a video on Instagram of Chauncey, these glowing eyes emerging from the bushes, and Chauncey was being like meow 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 because Marley's home. And I'm like, it's so cute because you don't think cats are like that, especially ones that have the roam, the outdoors, everything. You don't think they need people that much. I feel like Chauncey's gonna lose his mind. Sorry, when you finally come back to the US.
It's so funny. Like I said before, I think it's because like I raised him from such a young age, like almost like 6 weeks, and we, you know what I mean? Like you kind of like train whatever kind of animal it is. Like if you're always around and you're always cuddling them, you're always hanging out with them, like they get used to that relationship, and so like they become more people cats. Whereas if they're traumatized or they're rescue animals, like it's so hard to break that. It's like humans, like we are kind of our childhood, or we are kind of whatever. And so, I've always like had that with him. So I think that's why he's so kind of like a mama's boy. But I love it.
I played D&D with two. Well, you probably know him. I played D&D with Emily and Sammy Gruber, and both of them are huge cat lovers. And so they make regular appearances in our D&D Zoom calls.
Yeah, yes, Emily has a cat named Randy Moss, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's amazing. she's a big, Vikings, Minnesota, everything, except for baseball, which I don't get, but okay. She's a LA Dodgers fan.
Mhm.
But yeah, they make regular appearances in our D&D Zoom calls, and I am a big nerd, so yeah, it's fine now. I had never played D&D. It took quarantine to play my first D&D campaign, and now that I have, it's like, holy shit, why was I not doing this my entire life? This is so much fun. Because, it's like you get to indulge some of those weird, maybe unhealthy dark impulses, but in this completely, non-judgmental venue where you get to just chill random non-player people because, hey, they looked at me weird and I didn't like it, so let's fight, that type of thing. And it's just super cool because of the, I grew up of the age where, like Harry Potter was a really big deal when I was growing up. I was the same age as that character. And so those type of fantastical, escape valves, if you will, I guess that's a good way of putting it, are super fun. And I think, I don't know, I think people shit on it a little bit, which is a little disheartening because I think if you actually do it and come into it, like, ready and willing to be open-minded and try to have fun with it, it actually is kind of a cathartic and almost like an emotional release type of thing. Because for 2 hours once a week, you get to be somebody totally different.
100%. Yeah, I play
not normally.
Mafia.
Oh,
Oh, sorry.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
with
Oh,
my
yeah.
friends, like once a week. I play. It's like Jen Shahadi, her brother Greg Shahadi, who are just like chess beasts. The Wilanowskis. Ben Wilanowski used to be like a super boss at poker. And there's a bunch of other like really smart people in the group who are huge gamers. They play everything. But it's fun once a week to sit there with a different role, lie your ass off. Like that's the entire goal, is to lie convincingly, or find the liars. And it's like really satisfying for a few hours. These games last forever sometimes because these people take it so seriously, but to just try to lie convincingly, you don't get to do that really. Like poker bluffing is one thing, but this is like such a different level. You start going personal with people too. You're just like, no way, it's like he would never be stupid enough to say this if he was really the mafia. Meanwhile the guy's like, I'm the mafia.
I remember watching you on Run It Up's werewolf streams with Vincent running the werewolf stream, and those were so fun. Obviously, it's not exactly the same game, but it's that same idea of deceit and misdirection. The reason I remember it is because we were watching it, looking for anything we could use for Worm Pro Poker, because Ryan was one of the werewolves on that. And so it was so much fun though, because I had never played or even seen werewolf played before.
I feel like you would love it. I feel like you would love it. You could play Mafia with us too if you wanted to, because it's like it's just a mind game and it's awesome. And like it's about reading people. There's a lot of skills you use in poker, and it's just, I don't know. I think it's a really fun way to practice your reading ability without having to do it in a poker setting.
So exactly, and that's fun, and also just like you said, the interaction, because you get to hang out with some really fun and interesting people. I don't get to play all that often, but Joe McKeon has
all the time. He has a
Telegram
group. Yeah,
and in that Telegram group, and they are always playing Wolf. Anytime it's like code names, I try and jump in on Codenames.
I love that game.
I am apparently addicted to Codenames now. I didn't realize it, but I love that game. I'm not very good at it yet because I've only played it probably a dozen times or so. So I'm still working out like GTO ways to give as the Star Master. For anybody who is unaware, Code Names is essentially, it's like the, isn't it like that? It's like the password. It's kind of like that little password game, but you have a board full of words. And as the clue giver, you have to make your team say your words and avoid the other team's words, essentially.
It's such a good game for controlling tilt. I swear to God, I think that could be the most frustrating game I have ever played in my life. Because Marley, I'll give you a clue and I'll just be like, you guys are on my team. I give you clues to say these words. KL could be like, she said wings. I think it's airplane, buffalo, and ghost. And they're the words. And I'm like, oh, yes, he's going to get it. And then you go, no, it would never be ghost. Ghosts don't have wings. Don't be an idiot. We're going to pick this word instead. And they pick the word that makes you lose. You can't say anything. So you just like watch your team, like discuss it in front of your face. And you have to just keep a straight face or you're cheating. So it's a game where like you watch your friends and you're just like, the whole time. It is so frustrating. But it's also awesome. It's a really good game. But yeah, I tilt so hard.
In Marley's defense, I would probably be the one going, no, it's not Ghost. And she would probably be the one going, no, it definitely is Ghost. And then you'd be like, Janet Trail. But I've heard that my fair share. But no, it is. It's so fun because it's something quick. It takes like 20 minutes usually to play a game, and it's fun, and it's something that is just an amazing decompression to just get outside your head, and it's still got that competitiveness because generally the people you're playing with are also very, very competitive and probably very accomplished. At least with the groups that we're in, they're all pretty accomplished poker players or whatever it is, and so having just like that thing that you can say, hey, remember that time I beat your ass in games? Those were good times, weren't they? That was fun. It like literally means nothing, but it makes me feel a little bit better.
True. Me and Melissa Burr used to play with our ex-boyfriends now. This is like 10 years ago. We both almost ended relationships over the game Scrabble Apple because like the one guy I was dating was so competitive to the point where it was like absurd, like past the point of it being healthy. And we beat his ass so many times that he was like ready to flip the board game and be like, fuck you, I'm out. And we were just like, this is so insane. And Melissa afterwards was like, I think you really need to rethink that relationship.
I didn't
Listen, you should take.
It's crazy.
What'd you say?
I said I didn't realize you guys went so far back, you and Melissa.
Yeah, from Borgata, 8 ages ago.
I mean, let's just be honest. Anybody that can eat that many chicken nuggets and not only not vomit, but actually like be perfectly fine doing it, and just like, yeah, I mean, nuggets, so what? Like, it's not a big
Did you
deal.
see that, Marley?
Yeah.
She's so skinny too. She's this like skinny little girl, but she's always been like that. We would go play poker and come back and like, let's go to Wawa and get a snack for, while we're hanging out. My snack would be like, I don't know, maybe I would get a donut, something shitty, or like ice cream or something. She would get an entire Entenmann's cake and eat it. And I'm looking at her and I'm like, you're 95 pounds. Like, how is this possible? I was so jealous of her. And she's kept it up. I always said, I was like, oh, you're going to get so punished when your metabolism slows. No, now she's just pounding like, she had like a chicken massacre. That had to have been like many chicken lives were lost in that challenge.
Oh, there's now a memorial at some chicken farm. They have a giant plaque that says, in remembrance of the person who murdered all these chickens for a bet. And I will say, I'm okay with her murdering all those chickens because I made a lot of money on that bet. So I'm like, it's fine. No, I actually bet, I bet a decent amount to me. Yeah, like to me, that's like a few $100. Obviously, to most people, a decent amount would maybe be more or less. But yeah, I was very confident of that. And it's funny because I DM'd her and I was like, hey, you don't know me, but I know this person, and this person, so I'm not a shady person. How confident are you? And she's like, oh, that's not a lot.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, taking your word for it. And I just like said to any of those people, I'm like, what kind of odds do you give me? They're like 2 and 1. I'm like, booked. What's the max? They're like $50. I'm like, let me know if you want more. Booked. And then I did the same thing. I don't know if you guys know him, but Brian Frenzel, the Golden Blazer on
Oh,
Twitch.
yeah.
Okay, so he did a sit and go challenge where he had to play, I think it was 509 max turbo sit and goes on Global Poker, not an endorsement from me. And he had to play 500 and be profitable at the end of 24 hours. And messaged him after he had done his like test run for 5 hours or whatever to see how many he could get in. And I was like, how'd it go? He's like, I killed it. Immediately after I posted on my Twitter, I'm like, taking my action on Brian. Hit me up if you want. And yeah, so I don't always bet, but when I do, I try to make sure I win because I like to win money, not to give people money. So if that's the one thing you take away from the entire podcast, when you bet, win money. Don't give money away. That's your tip.
That's a good tip. And with that in mind, perhaps I take the rest of the day off. I'll heed your advice and not play poker today.
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't played poker since Sunday, and that's because let's just say, you know those speed bags that boxers train on? Poker did that, but to my man parts. Like just all day. Just I was just like, yeah, okay. So poker, yeah, it was bad. It was a bloodbath. Yeah, it was. Oh man, and then I had a little bit of PTSD over last Sunday, but it's fine. We'll just sort it out and
You'll get it back
make up.
Sunday.
Yay, make up. So it's whatever.
Oh man, this has been really fun. Marle, do you have any last words to add? Because I feel like I just hijacked the end of this pod with dogs and werewolf and whatever else.
No, I mean, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed listening and learning.
This has been fun, Kale. Any give one last plug. Just plug away whatever you want. Whatever. We're shameless in this podcast. Chill away.
Well, I mean, obviously, I would love it if people would check out rangetrainerpro.com, RANGE Trainer Pro, PRO.com. We have a free version. You can sign up, just need your email, and then you make a password. We don't ask for your credit card, anything like that. Check it out. At the very, very, very least, you have a way to view basic ranges on any device as long as you have an internet connection. So you won't have to be at your computer. You can open it up on your phone on break at a live tournament once the world is not ending anymore, and check your ranges in real time. And then if you upgrade to the premium, obviously you can do training and add weights and frequencies to hands as well. But I truly hope that people will just at least check it out and see why it can help them. Obviously, I cannot guarantee that you will make money on poker. Nobody can. I cannot control variance. But what I can do is guarantee that if you actually put in the work and try to get better, that you'll be infinitely more comfortable in every single pre-flop situation. You won't have those moments of like, I'm not sure what to do here. I don't know if I should 3-bet this or peel this. I don't know, whatever. You won't have that because I didn't like feeling that way, and I tried to make something where other people don't have to feel that way.
Mhm.
So that's my shameless plug. Let me say, just before we go, thank you very, very much for inviting me on. I really, really appreciate it. Obviously, I'm a big fan of both of you. I've followed both of you on social media, like trying to find the right balance between, being interested and also not creepy in what you guys are doing. But I say that from a perspective of like, I think those of you are really important to the poker community writ large. Having your perspectives and also just the way that you interact with people, I think are really, really undervalued parts of the poker community. So thank you very much for kind of giving me a little bit of legitimacy by having me on the show, and obviously, to run it once at large for giving you guys the show, and obviously making a very good decision to put both of you together because it's entertaining AF.
Well, we feel the same way about you. We actually paid KL $20 to show for us like that, so we appreciate it. We got our money's worth. Thank you
That was very sweet. Thank
so
you
much for coming on.
Hey, thank you very much for having me.
All right, guys, we'll see you next week
All right.
for another guest. And until then, be good.